What is going on, UFC card lovers? I am back here with another UFC card community video, a card community conversation. It's been a little while since I've done one of these, but I'm here with my guy, the guy who is on Instagram at the moment making fantastic, informative UFC card related videos. I'm here with NFT Starts Here on Instagram. I've been watching these videos recently. They're really, really good. They're really, really informative. They're straight to the point. It's what some of you guys and girls, I'm sure, really appreciate. But we're here to talk about everything to do with UFC cards here today. So let's get straight into it. How you going, mate?
Hey, what's up, everybody? NFT right here. Nice to see everybody out. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No, you're more than welcome. I've always really enjoyed sitting down with people who, as I've made notice before, would not normally get a chance to ever speak or meet with. This is a crazy thing about having a hobby that sort of connects people worldwide. But I'm always super interested, and we're going to get into it right here, right now, is how and when did you get started into collecting UFC cards?
Yeah, man. So, not to talk too long about it. I mean, believe it or not, we had a family business when I was a kid, and in the '80s, my mom ran this family business with me and my siblings. We sold hot dogs, candy, stuff like that, but we also sold cards. And so my mom would go to the wholesale and buy a whole bunch of boxes of NBA, NFL. Mind you, one of the boxes we used to have in our house was that '86 Flair, which is Michael Jordan's rookie cards, right? And they're worth hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars. And those were just sitting in my living room. I had no idea what the value would be at the time, but started from there, sold it. I was mostly into non-sports when I was younger. Marvel, DC, a little bit of NFL, a little bit of NBA, but a whole bunch of the junk wax era. And then faded away. Then in 2022, luckily after the big boom of the cards from COVID, when the market started going down, it was a little bit cheaper. Um, I got back into it with the local card shop. So shout out to the GOAT here in Guam in Tumon. Uh, Ripped a pack of UFC cards because I absolutely love UFC, obviously. Um, and got hooked from there. I couldn't believe my eyes at how much a pack of cards would cost. It was, I think, 22 Prism at the time or 21, I forget. And then we had our thrift shop here. They sell a bunch of collectibles. Got into it there. Unfortunately, got into Whatnot, which is an addicting thing. I don't advise of it unless you're ready with a budget and have some self control. And here we are today. That's how it went, pretty much.
Yeah, that's actually interesting that you say. I haven't talked to too many people actually who also got into UFC cards for the first time in 2022. So that was myself. Started 2022, just sort of had this nostalgia kick in the mid 30s. I was looking back for things that could possibly have nostalgia for. And through that, just somehow got into a Google search of UFC cards, and here we are, 2 years on. But speaking about Whatnot, I want to ask you a little bit more about that because I know you're pretty clued into the community there at the moment. But to get the other more basic question, I guess, out of the way and help the viewers get to know you a little bit better. And I want to talk about your set collecting in a little bit because you probably have one of the most impressive Immaculate sets that I've seen for UFC. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But I am curious to know, I know, other than the set collecting, do you have like individual fighters who you also have a part of your collection, or is it just straightly set collecting?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, who's not a diehard UFC fan if you don't got key people that you love as fighters, right? And obviously, for me, a lot of it starts with how these guys usually come from humble beginnings, from absolutely nothing to becoming big mixed martial artists and multimillionaires and stuff like that. But I usually PC or like get inspiration from like the humble, confident fighters. So Amanda Nunes, Alexander Volkanovski, who, by the way, was a local champion in uh, our fighting arena. We called it PXC. So he was a champion here. Charles Oliveira, Zhang Wei Li, and Bullet, Valentina Shevchenko, Israel Adesanya. So those are my main big ones. And I have some other people I kind of chase. I'm a fan of Poetan. I like his humor. I like his personality. Some others I chase a little bit there. But those are my key ones.
Yeah, that's a pretty long, impressive list there, and I'm sure a lot of those are some popular
Unfortunately.
names within the UFC cards. So, can you sort of explain maybe a little bit about how do you go about juggling between chasing sets and then also picking up these individual cards of your favorite fighters? How does that work for you?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to keep it short. There's so much to say about it. But uh, with the set collecting, um, how it really started was when I got into Whatnot and I was getting into different people's streams, like picking one of one, collecting LA, one of my good friends out there, sports card hobbyist. I was just kind of studying it, because like we were talking about earlier, there wasn't much information about it, but I was studying what the cards were, the different sets, all that stuff. But also, what really, really helped me with value and what could be a good investment for personal collection or resell in the future is studying NFL and NBA. So those are where the real big cards, at least where the market's at. Right? The market's really high. We all know that stuff. So learning about that, learning from those Whatnot streams, asking questions, always asking questions. And then, um, I saw like the different types of sets like Immaculate, Flawless, Impeccable. These are a lot of the brands are in NBA, NFL. But, I learned about sticker autos and on-card autos, and obviously almost all my Immaculates are on-card autos. So obviously I'm a big on-card auto person. For me, it's just a big thing is knowing that that fighter you admire touched that card, or when you see my Immaculate moments, they look at that history. They read that Amanda Nunes is the double champ, or Habib choked out Conor McGregor, and he's looking at that and he signs it with his own hands. There's just such a big difference between having someone from Panini or Tops put a sticker on that was formally signed. No offense to it, people collect that. I have a few sticker autos too, but it's just my personal thing about that. But as far as having multiple PCs, that's also a problem in itself because that's where your spending starts to double, triple, or multiply. So I can go a bit further into that. Well, I gotta watch out. My wife's watching this, so I'm not going to mention any prices.
All right, we won't get you in any, we won't go any further. I don't want to get you in any trouble and maybe lower that budget that you already have to the side there
Yeah,
for the
exactly.
collection. But that's a really great point that you made about actually I haven't really put two and two together with that thought before, especially with, as you said, Immaculate, with these moments that for the insert they have for that is the actual image itself is directly correlated to a fight. And as you said, the athlete, the fighter is looking at that image while they're signing the card. And as you said, in the hand itself, that's actually something that is pretty cool that I haven't really thought of about before.
Yeah, exactly. So shout out to Joe's card stash. He
Yeah, I know
really wants this card.
he does really
Who
want
wouldn't
that
want
one.
this card, right?
Yeah.
There's the Notorious. This one's actually my favorite card. UFC. This is the Immaculate
Hoist.
Moments
Yeah,
for
Hoist with
Hoist
Hickson.
Gracie.
Yeah.
It's got his Hickson. He's got his dad.
Helio. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't see any other pictures like this. And the fact that Hoist held this, sees his family, signs it. That's just what throws me off.
Yeah.
That's what gets me.
I need to ask you this just personally, and this is not one obviously have uh, gave you notice about, but you made an interesting point about trying to learn about UFC cards in general first before diving in too quickly, which is obviously a very smart thing to do. But you made a mention about sort of comparing them to NFL, NBA cards to some of the other bigger sports. Is there any sort
Yeah.
of direct correlation or any sort of similarities that been able to draw between UFC cards, maybe starting out? I know obviously we both know UFC cards are much newer and much less are much more of a niche just at the moment. But is there any sort of commonalities, any sort of things, parallels you've been able to draw between which UFC cards maybe to go for in some of those things that you've learned?
Yeah, 100%. I already mentioned about the Immaculate and any on-card auto, right? Pretty much. If you see, I'm also a big fan of Sports, who does those weekly videos of top 10 cards. So he's the one that's how I kind of find out about, if you don't know about Sports, you got to watch him on YouTube. So every week, every Monday, he always puts out a video of top 10 sports cards that were sold from 100,000 to $1 million. So
Oh
on a
wow.
weekly basis. So
Yeah,
pretty
wow.
crazy. You got to watch that. And from there, I find out what are the top 10, right? And a big part of it, of course, are rookies, but especially if they're on card autos, especially of course if they're the legends, the Steph Currys, the Luka Doncic's nowadays, the LeBron James, the Kobe Bryant's, so uh, I tie those correlations to UFC, but then even with ultra modern, they call it ultra modern nowadays is case hits, case hits. Uh, that's one of my chasers now, which is unfortunately a lot of my chases are expensive chases, but uh, case hits, for example, I like in my video, it's not a number, but it's a super short print, right? And what I love about it is that there's no other parallels of it, right? Um, there could be 25 or 30 kabooms, for example, color blasts, downtowns. The big ones for me right now are kabooms and downtowns, and uh, those are pretty consistently hot in NFL, NBA. There are people always chasing that. It's very liquid, meaning the turnaround of buying, selling the card is very high, but also collecting them. So I have a couple sets or not incomplete sets, but I'm still trying to chase them as much as I can.
That's a great little tip for people actually, because I've noticed myself, I've started looking a little bit more into maybe picking up a 2022 Kaboom for Sean O'Malley to add to the collection. And
Yeah,
they don't often pop up. And then obviously it's hard to know what the print runs are. I know 2022 was an individual pack that you bought online.
yeah,
So a lot of the same people who made the purchases, they picked up all the packs that they could. So however their buying method was, but I know they were obviously an individual pack for 2022, so they weren't pack pulled from a set, for example.
yeah,
But I've still noticed like 2022 Kabooms, they always seem to hold value and they always seem to hold some sort of demand because even if, let's say there's, as you said, let's say 20, even if we say more reserved, say there's 25, 30 copies. If we compare that to maybe probably the closest prism, even if we compare it to a tealish prism, well, any big name fighter, which there's going to be 49 copies of. Kaboom's downtowns, they get so much more action than what those prisms do, which even if they're a similar print run, there's always demand. Like I had hope initially because obviously pricing's very much up and down at the moment. So I had hope, oh, maybe I can pick up a Sean O'Malley Kaboom for a few $100s. No chance whatsoever. There is always
yeah,
20, 30 watches on that auction. And then the bid, like
yeah,
it's always getting bidded up to around at least $500, which is probably a little bit
yeah,
more than I want to pay for it at the moment. But it's one thing I've definitely noticed too. So you're probably onto something there with sticking to the case hits. The only thing that I worry about with case hits, and you feel free to add on or reply to this if you like, but especially case hits at the moment, 2024, we have these case hits for Topps Chrome, and case hits are limited to how many cases they are. And unfortunately, we don't get a number we get pack odds, we may get box odds, case odds, but we don't actually know how many cases are. So a case hit is
yeah.
only
That's true.
limited to as many cases as what they made. So
Yeah,
that's one thing that I
and who
worry about just moving forward
and
with
who
cases.
exactly? Who knows how many cases if they're continuously making cases, right? Like you said, but at least for the Panini era, because obviously Paninis were. I'm chasing the case hits, which is the kabooms downtowns, and occasionally the color blast. The color blast is actually the most expensive, which uh I barely have any. I only have two color blasts and they're always shooting up so high. Just like you were saying, chasing the 2022 Kaboom, which is the debut Kaboom, right? And I actually really wanted to point this out in this show is about how, you were talking about how there's parallels. And I think even you and Zach mentioned this in your previous podcast about how with Kaboom or downtowns, for example, there's only one downtown, one style, one color, and it's a short print. But if you have, for example, a Sean O'Malley Prism, there's the same exact picture with multiple colors, but you're getting the same exact image. No offense to anybody that collects rainbows or anything like that. But when we're talking about rarity, specifically rarity, not collecting, but rarity, the real rarity is there with the case hits because there's no other colored parallels. It's just that design only. we've only had 3 years of Panini, and there was only I guess it was 3 years of Color Blast, but 2 years of Downtowns, only 2 years of Kabooms. The only thing, and it's a very important part I want to share with you also, is because the market's up and down. I would have to choose like I was chasing for Sean O'Malley's Downtown, right? But then it's not O'Malley Downtown is so expensive. It's like 700 or 800 bucks raw, something like that. It's hard to get someone to bring down the price. But then you have the opportunity to buy like PSA 10, Sean O'Malley, first auto, or I got this for I think 300 bucks, and this is the on card auto, it's
Yeah.
PSA 10. But you have to choose your battles, right? Like,
Yeah.
am I gonna chase a case hit that has no what is that, memorabilia, no auto? It does nothing to do with history, or do I get history, for half the price? And so like you said, the market's up and down, and those are the kind of the choices I had to do when building my sets and collecting, especially the case hits. It's not really history there, but it's more about rarity of getting these case hits. So you have to choose. I had to choose those battles, and I'm learning that as I'm going. Obviously with a bunch of mistakes.
That's that obviously, yeah, once again, another great point, great addition to what we're talking about. But that's actually made me think of something right now. I want to get into your set collecting in just a second, but before we get into what sets you collect and why you maybe potentially collect those sets, can you sort of talk about, because we have mentioning about UFC card market is up and down. Before we talk about your set collecting, can you speak a little bit about how you go about picking up the cards that you need for a set? Because if anyone pays closer attention to UFC cards, the market, the sales in general, you will know that if a fighter is coming up to a bigger fight, if they've come off a big fight, we do have those initial peaks and of their pricing. So, for example, let's say you're missing we're talking about my guy Sean O'Malley so much, so we'll keep his name in the conversation. If say you're picking up a Sean O'Malley Immaculate Auto from 2021, how are you looking about picking up that card at a certain period of time to make sure you're not sort of paying a higher premium than what you normally would be? Because I'm sure as a set collector, you have troubles because a card may pop up fight week that you've been waiting a year, maybe longer to pick up, and this may be your one and only chance. But at the same time, I'm sure you've got the voice in the back of your head. You don't want to be paying a premium. So if you can talk
Yeah.
a little bit about how you manage that struggle as a set collector.
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about that for so long, but I want to keep it as short as possible. And I'm laughing because of the chase. For I think for most of us, maybe well, most of us collectors, a lot of this is a gamble, but the chase is so exciting. And for me, the chase of these sets are so exciting for me. Like when I see it, I gotta have it. You know what I mean? But in the beginning, I was horrible, right? I just bought whatever was available, pulled the trigger. It didn't matter what it cost. I didn't look at comp like, oh my gosh, when is this gonna pop up again or whatever? Or we always think, oh, if this looks like the market's as down as it's gonna be, then you buy it, and like 2 months later, it's half the price. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I think the chase and um, I don't know where to continue or start with that, but yeah, I mean, ultimately, it really is the case, and I get excited, and that's something I have to control, and that's some advice too that I put in my videos, but I want to keep reemphasizing. And a lot of people give advice to budget, stay patient. You do in your videos, right? But in this hobby, in almost any hobby, people into hobbies, we don't have patience. We don't, and I don't have patience. It takes a lot of self-control and like realizing that this card will pop up. I don't chase one of ones, one out of fives, none of that. Um, so of course, if a one of one pops up, I would get it. But usually the ones I get, they're numbered, they're lower numbered, or up to a 99 at the most. So I've learned that they're gonna pop up again. I just gotta be patient and really stick to my budget. But I think for most of us that collectors, it's the chase, and grabbing it when we can. Building relationships is huge. You can't be shy if you want to build these sets. Shout out to the Gobles in helping me complete the 2021 Immaculate Marks of Greatness, which is a 47 card set, you know, and I had to reach out and build relationships, tell people what I needed, and don't be shy about it. Ask questions and do trades. Do as much trading as you can to save money. Technically, you bought those cards, but you instead of buying more cards, you make trades and things like that. And then as far as not buying in peak moments, sometimes these cards pop up during the peak moments, which is unfortunate for me if I'm collecting a set, right? So sometimes I've been waiting and it finally pops up, and then I realize, oh, he has a fight this weekend. That's why it's there. What am I gonna do? What? How much did? How many hundreds of dollars am I in this month? Um, is, I'm supposed to be done, and it's the 20th of the month, and I'm supposed to wait till the first to jump in my budget. Do I grab a little bit of there and say, oh, I'll just take a little bit of next month and I won't take that budget. But then next month comes, another card comes. You know how it is. We all know how it is to everybody out there. So that's why I'm laughing about this whole thing. But again, I'm laughing because it's fun. The case is great. It's just cool. It's history, man. I love the UFC. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, no, that's I was smiling ear to ear hearing you talk about that because yeah, someone who also operates or tries to operate to a monthly card budget, I know that exact feeling. You know, I've had times before where it's not even the 15th of a month and I've blown the budget and then something will pop up the next week and I'm like, oh, as you said, are you trying to draw out of the bank for the next month's
Yeah.
budget, and then you're short on the next month, and yeah, it's a whole ordeal in itself. But that's a great segue into what I want to talk about next. So you were just talking about that immaculate autograph set from 2021 that you recently completed. I want to hear all about your set collecting, especially with Immaculate Autos, because as I said, if people haven't seen it, they need to check out your Instagram right now, which I will have linked in the description below. And also that way they can stay up to date with the content you're putting out, which we will get onto after this. But yeah, the Immaculate autograph sets that you're putting together is really quite impressive. So talk a little bit about your motivation behind that, what it was about the Immaculate Autos that really sort of appealed to you, that set collecting bug that you have inside you to want to put that together, and anything else you want to talk about the set collecting that you've done with Immaculate.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. Like we talked about earlier, you know, that it wasn't easy to put it together, but being impatient, being assertive about it, I just had to complete the sets as soon as I could. And, you know, these sets that I collect, you know, there's a lot of, for me, it's like history into it. You know, the moment set that we talked about earlier, each of those cards talk about a specific time in the UFC career of a fighter. And the fact that they hold the card, they sign it, they're aware of that, they're part of that history, you know, and also looking into NFL, NBA with these kind of cards compared to the prices that are out there, you know, our UFC card prices are cheap compared to NFL and NBA. Maybe not to my wife, again, I'm going to bring her up, but they are in comparison, you know, and like we all know, UFC is not as big right now, but it's an international sport, and I believe it will get big. And whether it does or it doesn't, I don't really care because these are my cards. But I feel that you know I'm holding the LeBron James, the Kobe Bryant cards of the UFC, right? The Hoist Gracies, the Chuck Liddells, the um, I think Amanda Nunes. I think Amanda Nunes is huge. You know, her market's really low, so it's a great time to put those together. And yeah, as far as other sets, you know, I think I'm pretty much done with Immaculate. You know, you guys talked about 23 Immaculate. I was pretty disappointed about how they were sticker autos, how they even placed the stickers on the cars were very like sad, you know, unfortunate, you know, because we invest so much money into this and this is how they present this product to us. You know, we think of this like treasure to us, you know, stuff we're gonna hold on forever. So 23 Immaculate was kind of a disappointing. So since Panini's done, um, I'm just looking into different things. You know, I'm chasing the downtowns. I'm not really looking to complete those sets, but just the key fighters that I want. But I feel like downtowns will hold its value. 2022 Kaboom. I'm a big collector of debut cards. So 21 Select, 21 Prism, uh, Top Chrome, 2017 Topps Chrome. I try to collect what I can from there to at a good price if I can find one. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit now about maybe what it is about a set that really gets you intrigued? I understand, and I'm sure everyone else can understand the reasoning behind, I suppose, getting into Immaculate, especially after hearing you talk about the significance of a lot of the images that are even on those cards, paired with being on card autographs. Like obviously that just even 10x is the collectability. So of those cards. But when it comes to maybe some of the other sets, like I have seen on your Instagram, you do have a set of the 2010 Bloodlines, the finest. Sorry, they're not finest, they're just the tops Bloodlines from 2010. They got the gold accents at the bottom. What is about that particular set, and then any other sets, like maybe talk a little bit about the criteria of what it is that appeals to you in order to make you want to collect the whole set?
Yeah, because I've been into UFC since the very beginning. Like, I didn't get into cards and then I got into UFC. So I really know all the original fighters of the UFC. So my first interest, unlike most people that got into UFC card collecting that know it from the beginning, for me, or we started collecting legends. We started collecting the older fighters, and then you learn about the card market, and then you start picking up the new rookies, the new cards, the ultra modern stuff. But I originally started doing collecting, and then vintage sets of the flags. I think you saw the 2010 flags sets that I saw, the bloodlines that you mentioned, and it's because I love the fighters of all those sets. I know every single fighter. I was actually putting my 2009 tops round one set, base set, of course, because anything more than that's too expensive. But I put it in a binder. Actually have it right here, and I could look at every card without reading the back and remember each fight. Like I was just doing that earlier this week. So um, it's just knowing that I don't just buy cards because it just looks cool, but most of the time, especially the vintage stuff, I know the stories of how a specific fight happened when I see that card, things like that. So I just remember moments.
Yeah.
This comes down to that.
No, that's yeah, that's very cool to hear because that's something that I like to do more from a more modern point of view as well. And it doesn't have to be a particular image that reminds me of a fight, but it may be more so a moment of it from an event that's just happened, which I want to talk about. I see you got the UFC 300 shirt on too, which I also do want to quickly touch on before we finish this up. But yeah, for example, sitting on the couch watching an event, UFC 300, something incredible happens, and then straight away I jump on eBay, pick up a card. It doesn't have to be, obviously, from any particular year, it doesn't have to be from 2024, but pick up a card, and then that way I can sort of retie that purchase to having uh, experienced that moment that I just witnessed. So, as you said, when you're coming back in the future, like you've done recently with the 2009 set that you've gone through, like you could obviously relive all those moments from those fights from many years ago. So that's very very cool to hear.
Yeah, and I think the your questions about sets are coming because also I remember you saying that you're not really a set collector yourself, right? In your podcast with Zach, and uh I was kind of learning from that and comparing it to myself and to kind of get that. So if you notice my sets are all old school fighters. All the moments are, well, big moments, right? But like I have the Legends set from Immaculate, which is just purely Legends. The all-time great set, which is all Legends again. The inductions, which is the Hall of Fame inductions, it's all Legends. The Immaculate milestones, they're all, dealing with Legends. You know what I mean? So I love, I pretty much kind of love every fighter, because I've been engulfed in UFC since day one. Uh, uh, thank, it's hard. It's my way of getting a great card of like Rich Franklin, for example. His market is so cheap, but when I think of Rich Franklin, he was huge back in the day. I don't know who to compare him. He's like a Volkanovski now. Uh, he's that guy, that humble, grit fighter. Um, came from out of nowhere, right? Both came from rugby. Franklin was a teacher,
Yes, cool
and
teacher.
when I
Yeah.
see it, yeah, when I see Rich Franklin Legends card that looks like that with the on card auto for 10, $15, like why not? You know what I mean? So, like I said, if um a majority of my sets are involved legends, so I have no problem putting that set together.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, and you're right. Probably selfishly, I am so intrigued to hear from set collectors, especially
Yeah,
one like yourself, because it's just such a different part of the hobby that for me, like I've never really experienced. For me, it doesn't really appeal to me. Or but although I'm super curious about it, and I think that's what's great about getting to sit down and talk about these things, and hopefully other people find it interesting as well. But I want to sort of branch out now and quick and talk about the really informative content. Short, it's more short format content, but it's still really informative. It has those little, you put little clips in, so it's still, it keeps the viewer entertained at the same time. I want to, yeah, hear a little bit about your content creation side of things that you're doing currently on Instagram. You've got the UFC Card 101 series that you've done 4 episodes for now, is it?
yeah.
So yeah,
Episode 4.
yeah. So talk a little bit about that, maybe a little bit behind the motivation or the inspiration that you have for creating this content for the community just right now.
Yep. So just like you said on my Instagram channel, I call it UFC Fight Cards 101. And religiously, just like my first video said, my pilot video saying where it's coming from, but I just had a friend of mine that I got him into UFC cards. He loves UFC. I told him about cards, and unfortunately, he's addicted. And so I got him stuck into it, just like all of us. But he was trying to find information about it, but he couldn't find anything. And just like me too, I couldn't find much. There's a little bit out there, but it's kind of everywhere, right? And the best way to learn for at this point, aside from hopefully the videos if they help, is again, like I said, and whatnot, asking questions, building relationships and things like that. So me, I'm a big problem solver in general. I just, if I see something, I just want to fix it and help in whatever way. Me coming from an island, that's kind of our culture as well. And my wife, she's into social media, so she also helped me, you know, kind of put these things together, give me ideas of how I should put them out, things like that. And slowly it's getting better and better. But yeah, I really just wanted to help people because there's not really much out there. And like we were talking about earlier, I do want to transition it into YouTube as soon as possible because I know that's like our insight, our, our source. If you want to learn about something, you go to YouTube, and um, I will I will do that eventually. I do have a YouTube right now, but it's totally not active. I'm purely putting my videos out on Instagram for now on my channel. So yeah, I just really want to help people out, especially when you're getting started. And if you don't know what you're buying, you just keep spending because you think it looks cool, or you see other people bidding. So why not bid? And whatnot makes it too easy to just swipe it and just buy. And you don't know what comps are. You don't know what the word comp is. If you first starting, you might just buy it because you think it's cheap, but you might be paying double, triple the price. You don't even know it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just want to help the community.
Yeah, no, as we spoke about it a little bit before earlier, I think your content fits great for YouTube. I know as you condense it down, as I said, really informative, straight to the point. I think that it would be perfect for YouTube, the topics that you are covering, the way
Thank
that
you.
you bringing it over. I think it would be a perfect fit for YouTube. So it would make sense that when you can, obviously you make that transition while still keeping, I guess, both platforms going, Instagram and YouTube. But I think that would work great for you. I can have, as I said, your Instagram will be linked down in the comment in the description below, and I can't even put a link to YouTube. Maybe we can get you a few subscribers, and that'll get the blood flowing to the YouTube channel as well. So maybe get some inspiration
Thank you,
going.
man.
I
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm just curious as well. Having this conversation with you, obviously you're picking up a lot of like really important cards, and some of these immaculate cards, especially, they're not easy to come by and they're not cheap to come by. So, have you had any experience on Whatnot? Especially, I'm curious about Whatnot. Is Have you had any experience with selling on Whatnot? Are you just strictly buying on Whatnot? Or maybe talk a little bit about your experience with Whatnot in general. I know you talked about you've got a community that have helped you get some of these sets together as well, but maybe a little bit about are you strictly buying on Whatnot, eBay, or are you doing a little bit of selling as well to help fund some of these purchases?
Yeah, as short as possible, as I can say is, for Whatnot, actually, I got approved to sell on Whatnot, but because of my location, kind of like your struggles in where you're at with shipping and things like that, we have the same struggles here on our island. And with Whatnot, we're not able to ship out of Guam where I'm at. So I actually had a first show. I had people buying. The community supported me and all that stuff. But when I was trying to prepare the shipping, it wouldn't allow me. Then after the show, when people bought things, they said, "Oh, I'm sorry, you can't ship any items," and I had to cancel orders or
Oh,
send messages out to these guys personally, and I just paid for shipping just as an apology because it was out of my control. It was one of those unfortunate situations. But they should have told me before they approved me as a seller. You know what I mean? So that was unfortunate, and people always want me to sell and whatnot, but I do sell on eBay. I've been actually been selling on eBay for about a year now. So I've been very active on eBay, buy and sell on eBay, Facebook group. So shout out to Straight Out of the Hobby Facebook, NB Breaks 88, UFC Sports Cards. There's a whole bunch out there. I put those in my IG videos too. I do a lot of Facebook sales, obviously, that helps with taking away the fees and stuff like that.
yeah, nice. So when you're doing these selling of the cards, obviously, how are you sort of getting the inventory for the stuff that you're selling? Obviously, when you're putting a set together, for example, those cards aren't getting put into the sale. So do you do much opening of product? Are you buying singles on the secondhand market on eBay, whatnot, and then you're trying to move them onwards on eBay or on the Facebook groups?
Um, you know, there's a lot of flippers, we call them, right, in the hobby. I should have put that in the UFC card slangs, but flippers. There's collectors, flippers, and flippers is pretty much obviously people that buy lots of a whole lot of cards and then resell them on whatnot or eBay or Facebook. Sports card hobbyist does that, and he's a great guy, genuine guy. Shout out to him. But my selling was by accident. It's one of those things where uh I didn't have a budget in the beginning. I didn't know what I was buying, and I know a lot of us out there had this problem in the beginning. I just had a whole bunch of cards. My wife saw all these bubble mailers piling up in my car, and she's like, "You gotta sell some of this stuff." And I honestly I did, and then it was kind of forced because I think it's pretty intimidating to go on eBay and sell or whatnot, but it's actually not that difficult at all. It's pretty easy. You have experience it yourself. Facebook, as long as you build relationships, you're secure, you're careful. It's not that difficult, you know. And that's obviously that's a big part of how I fund my new collections, my new purchases, uh, the sets and my PC cards and stuff like that. So I don't buy lots and resell them. I just sell them because I bought a bunch of cards I should not have bought. I end up with them and like you said earlier, I wait till they fight, I post them up and pray they sell as high as I can to make some money back. So it's all by accident myself, really.
Yeah, no, we've all
As
done.
far as
No,
yeah,
you're
as
right,
far as
sorry.
you had the other question about how I get my cards and my sets, my singles, on my Instagram, I haven't post a lot of my PC cards. I don't post my PC cards. I posted my sets, but I have a lot of my PC cards are actually what's behind me. Like rookies of Amanda Nunes, Volkanovski, first autos of those guys, things like that. So I never really posted those. But with the market being down, I took it. I'm taking advantage of it. Like I said, luckily I got into it 2022 where it started declining. It was higher in 22 than it is now, but um, if I bought in 21 any of these cards, I'd be paying double or triple of what I bought them. So I'm just taking advantage of the market being down at this time and buying them as singles because trying to whip wax and hopefully get that card you want is you're gonna go down that rabbit hole. I know Golden Octagon. He's a big wax ripper, right? And that guy gets pretty lucky. So, but that's his style, right? Everyone has their own style of doing what they want. And obviously, I'd love to rip as much wax as I could, but that's just too much money and too much risk. I want my PC cards. Like I said, I love my fighters.
Yeah, no, you're talking to the right guy here for sure. Like, definitely the biggest advocate for buying the singles that you want as opposed to opening product. But I guess you need to be around long enough. And as you spoke about at the very start, like you did the smart thing and you did the research before jumping in and buying too much stuff. So although I'm sure there was still some mistakes made along the way, and there are always necessary mistakes when you're first getting into something because that's how you learn. But yeah, you need to be real, like, do take that time, research, find out what cards you like the design of, find out what inserts you might like more so than others. Maybe have a think about what if you have a favorite fighter. If you don't have a favorite fighter, that can obviously be a clear indicator of going into the singles market instead. But yeah, if you are after a particular card, you got to be buying it on the secondary market as opposed to trying to have the very, very lottery chance of pulling that exact card that you want out of a,
Yeah.
$200-300 box, which I am interested to know about actually. Have you bought into any of the tops stuff this year from what we've seen? We've had Chrome and Midnight so far to date. Have you been buying anything that's on your radar from tops this year?
You know, I haven't been getting into much breaks. Yeah, I definitely prefer Topps Chrome over Midnight. I'm not a big fan of the Midnight cards whatsoever. Uh, my big thing with Midnight is like I don't see how that card design concept correlates to fighting, period. You know what I mean? When Topps back then called things knockout, bloodlines, King of the forgot some of the stuff that Chicken was ripping as well, and you're calling something Midnight and the design. I get it's a modern look. It might it looks great with Sean O'Malley cars, right? And the neon colors and stuff like that. And it looks clean. They made the product really well. But personal preference is just not for me. I like Topps Chrome, but I think they still could have done better. I think me and Zach are on the same page when it comes to the design of Topps Chrome. It's okay. I'm really just, rookies are rookies, right? If I'm chasing a rookie, I'm gonna get it because there will be no other card to see that RC there that says rookie card. So for this top tier, I'm going for Themba. Um I might invest into Baby Shark. I want to see her fight a little bit more. Um who else? Ariane Lipsky. Ariane Lipsky. I know she just had a loss, but I think she has potential there. I think she has also star power there too. So those are kind of the things I look for when I'm gonna invest in a fighter or not just for cards, but uh attaching for a PC fighter is like I check to see do they have champion qualities like when they're down and about, do they push through and fight even if they get a loss? Obviously skill. Uh, I'm a big believer in humility as well. You can talk some trash and have fun, but be a little humble. Humble fighters. That's kind of who the people are like. That's why I like Themba.
Yeah, no, I get that for sure. I,
Oh, Diego
bef-
Lopez too. I saw him at UFC 300. So, and he's a humble guy, but he's exciting to watch, man. He has definitely got star potential.
that's also a perfect segue. Now you alley that up for me for sure. That was Pippen to Jordan. I want to ask you, you got the shirt on right now. Before we finish this off, I need to ask about your experience at UFC 300, being at such a monumental event, and then also pairing that in with obviously the fights that we witnessed as well for that card. Maybe talk anything you want to talk about being at the UFC 300 event.
Yeah, well, first I'll say is I did not pay for those tickets. My boss hooked me up. I guess he saw me working hard, and he said, "Hey, just pay for your trip because where I'm from, it's a 2,000 almost a $2,000 plane ticket to get to the mainland. So thankfully I was able to use my miles, got me out there. But he said, just pay for your ticket. You can stay at my place out here in Vegas, and I'll buy your floor or your seats." And he surprised me about the floor seats. I didn't know they were going to be floor seats till we got there. So And every time I talk about it, I get goosebumps, man. It's just crazy. Um, that's actually my second UFC fight I've watched. The last one I watched was a Rampage versus Matt Hamill, which was a long time ago. Anyway, but yeah, that experience was crazy. I just soaked it up. I was a I was a big groupie, just waiting for fighters around me to pass by. And the fact that we were on the floor, we shared the same concession stand and restroom with the fighters, the stars like Mark Zuckerberg, Daniel Cormier, Theo Vaughn, Dana White. So every break in between fights, I would run out just to see if I could run into any fighters, which I did. I didn't post any. I posted on my story, but I got to take pictures of Mackenzie Dern, uh, Clay Guida, Mike Malott. Saw the Schmo. I love the Schmo. Uh, the one person I really want to take a picture of the cat with is Dana White. Oh, he's not a fighter, but if I were to want to meet and sit down with someone, my favorite fighter is Dana White. I just love how he runs that company, and I think a lot of us do, right? But yeah, Dana White, and when that I posted on my Instagram too, when that Max Holloway knockout happened, uh, Dana White talks about the holy shit moments. Pardon my language, but if you listen to the background of that video, everybody kept saying "Holy shit!" Holy, it's just repeated if you don't listen to it carefully. But nobody knew if he knocked him out too late or on time or what. But nobody sat for such a long time, and then to see how viral that went, not just in the fight community, but internationally. Period. Like my sister heard about it. My aunt heard about it. People hate UFC. So that really put us on the map again. And yeah, just that experience was great. I could talk so much about that. It was amazing. I bought a bunch of memorabilia too. I even bought the Fight Matt relic from the UFC store. So I'm hoping to wait for that to come in. I bought a bunch of t-shirts, I bought a bunch of hats, bought those uh Pops Now cards,
Now cards,
and I
yeah.
managed to pull a UFC 300 poster card. So I'm super happy about that. So I got lucky with that. Anything I can get a hold of with UFC 300, I want it because that's part of my life or part of my experience. So I encourage
Yep.
anybody to watch the UFC fight.
I was going to ask you about the Tops Now cards, but obviously it makes so much sense that you would have, jumped straight on those as well, just to, as you said, add to the collection of memorabilia that you have from that like completely unforgettable moment in your life. And I mean, isn't that just maybe the top runner for boss of the year to actually get you a ticket and then obviously help you with the accommodation and everything for UFC 300. We can talk off air, but I think I need to be sending my CV over your way as well and see if we can work. So I'll work for free if I get me a ticket to UFC 400 in 7 years' time. But no, that's a perfect way to finish off the video. I'm really, really appreciative that you've come on, that we've obviously got to know each other, even just you and I, regardless of how many people are watching this video right now and watching through to the end. But I'm super appreciative that you've gave me your time to talk about UFC cards, something that we maybe don't get to do so much in our day-to-day life. So really appreciative of your time. And I do want to obviously get connected. We'll stay connected and we can, come back in a year's time or whatever and get you back on the channel for sure. And hopefully you're killing it on YouTube by that time as well, which we'll have a lot more to talk about. But just once again, I want to thank you very, very much for coming on. This was a great time. It was really great to pick your brain as a set collector and hear a little bit more about your story and the content that you're putting out there. So thank you again. And just to finish it off, do you want to just let the people know what the best way to get in contact with you if they want to learn more about you or want to also, get connected with you?
Yeah, so man, hey man, but I want to start off by thanking you too, man, because I want to make sure people follow you, check your stuff because this all comes from passion, and I hope you leave this in the video. Please watch this guy, follow his IG, check out his YouTube and things like that. Yeah, so like you said, you can follow me on Instagram. NFT starts here. I'm actually if you guys can put in the comments below, I'm thinking if I should change my name. I started with NFTs, UFC NFTs. You can see at the very bottom of my Instagram, but then I got into cards and addicted and never looked back at NFTs anymore. So, but people know me as NFT. That's like my name now. So I don't know if I might have to leave it there or call it NFT cards here. I don't know. Give me some ideas. Put some in the comments below. Look out for these UFC Fight Cards 101 reels. In the next couple of days, I try to put one every week. Also, to the comments, if you checked out my reels, give me some ideas of what else I should put into my reels for UFC Fight Cards 101. I will be also transferring to YouTube, like you mentioned as well. So yeah, and thanks to everybody in the card community. Let's keep it positive out there. You know, sometimes there's drama out there, but man, this is a hobby. Let's just have fun with it. Let's support each other, build relationships, and let's make our card values go up. I want our card values to go up.
Yeah. No, definitely, as I said, jump onto his Instagram. It will be linked in the description below, and even his link to his YouTube will be down in the description below. So jump on his channel, jump on his Instagram, check out what he's doing, check out his amazing sets that he's been able to put together, and I'm sure he's still working on more in the future as well. So thank you once again, and thank you guys. We'll be here again, back again next week for another UFC video at UFC Card Talk.